The observation deck of the Zixter command station sat high above the human settlement on Kepler 442b. From this place, everything below looked small and weak. Captain Vorn of the Kelthian Empire stood with his best soldiers, and they were all looking down at the humans moving around the settlement. The Kelthians were tall and strong. Their skin was hard like metal. Their minds worked fast and cold. They had conquered 17 worlds because they were smarter and stronger than every other species. They did not believe in luck or magic. They believed only in power and logic. Captain Vorn tapped his claw on the data display, and lines of human information lit up. The screen showed wars from Earth. It showed stories about humans who gave their lives for other humans. It showed humans fighting for ideas instead of resources. It showed humans protecting children they did not know. Lieutenant Cass stood next to the captain. She was a good soldier, hard and efficient. When she looked at the human data, she made a sound that was like a laugh. Her kind did not laugh often, but this was funny to her. "Look at this," Cass said, pointing at one file. The humans called their dead warriors heroes. They made stories about them. They said these dead humans did great things because they believed in something bigger than living. Can you imagine? They threw away their lives for ideas. They threw away their lives for other humans. She shook her head. This is not strength. This is stupidity. A strong species keeps its best soldiers alive. A smart species does not waste lives for nothing. Tresh was younger than Kess. He was still learning how to think like the Kelthians. He looked at another file, and his mouth opened with surprise. "Captain, this word appears in their history many times. Look, loyalty, family, love. They say humans will do anything for these things. They say humans will die for them." Captain Vorn read the words. His brain worked fast, sorting information and looking for the logic. "They believe their weakness is a strength," he said. "They tell stories about this weakness. They call it something beautiful. In their language, they call it courage. But courage is just the mind lying to itself about fear. Courage is just the body moving forward when every logical part of the brain says to run." The captain looked at the human settlement. Down there, humans were moving around the buildings. Some humans carried children on their bodies. Some humans worked in fields, doing hard labor under the hot sun. Some humans sat together and did nothing except be near each other. "The humans are animals," Captain Vorn said. "They are controlled by chemicals in their brains. When they are scared, they get stronger. When they are sad, they stay loyal to others. When they are in pain, they protect the people near them. They are slaves to their own biology. They do not have control. They have only instinct and emotion." He turned away from the window. "The Empire made the right choice. We brought the humans here to study them. We will learn how long this weakness lets them survive. We will learn if this love and loyalty keep them alive or kill them. In the end, we will know everything about humans. And we will know that we are better." A soldier named Vex spoke for the first time. "What if they are hiding something, Captain? What if this loyalty and love is not weakness?" Captain Vorn looked at Vex with a look that was cold. "The humans have no weapons we fear. They have no technology we cannot copy or destroy. They have no power that matters in this universe. All they have is each other. They have feelings and bonds. These things do not win wars. These things do not conquer worlds." But the captain was wrong about something. He did not know that one human was listening to every word down in the settlement. In a building made of strong material, Jacob Morrison sat in a small, dark room. He was old, much older than most humans. He had lived many years on Earth, and he had seen many wars. He had seen humans die for stupid reasons. He had seen humans kill other humans for land and money. He had seen cruelty and pain, but he had also seen something else. He had seen humans stop shooting when they saw a child. He had seen soldiers give food to their enemies. He had seen mothers and fathers run into burning buildings to save people they did not know. He had seen humans laugh together even when things were bad. He had seen humans cry when other humans died, even people they had never met. Lisa sat next to Jacob. She was young and smart. She was the one who had found the way to listen to the Kelthians. She had built a small machine that could hear their words from far away. Now she and Jacob listened to the captain's words about human weakness. "They do not understand," Jacob said quietly. His voice was rough and old. "They see our love for each other, and they call it weakness. They see our loyalty, and they call it stupidity. They see our willingness to die for others, and they call it the mind lying to itself." Jacob stood up slowly. His body was old and stiff, but his mind was still sharp and hard. He had been a soldier when he was young. He had learned how war worked. He had learned how humans could be strong in ways that had nothing to do with muscles or guns. "They are wrong," Jacob said, "and I will show them." He walked to the window. Outside, the settlement moved with life. Humans were working in the fields. Humans were building new structures. Humans were caring for children and old people. Humans were creating art and music and stories. Jacob knew something the Kelthians did not know. He knew that the stories humans told were true. He knew that humans really were strong in ways that no machine could measure. He knew that love and loyalty were not weaknesses. They were the real power of the human species. The Kelthians thought they had trapped humans here to study them. They thought they were watching something weak and broken. They did not know that Jacob Morrison and other humans had survived wars and hunger and death. They did not know that humans could adapt and think and survive in ways that no alien species could predict. Jacob turned to Lisa. "How many people can we tell?" he asked. "How many humans can we bring into this? We need to show the Kelthians the truth. We need to show them what human strength really is." Lisa understood. She had grown up hearing the old stories. She had learned about humans who had died to save others. She had learned about the soldiers and firefighters and ordinary people who had chosen to help instead of hide. "We can tell them," Lisa said. "The young people will listen. They want to believe that we are strong. They want to believe that coming to this world was not a mistake." Jacob nodded. "Then we will make them understand. We will show the Kelthians that their science and their logic have missed something very important. We will show them that humans are more than they think we are." The observation deck of the Zixter command station was still watching the settlement. The Kelthians were sure they had all the answers about humans. They were sure they understood everything about human weakness. They had no idea that they were about to learn something that would break everything they believed about strength. Jacob Morrison was 73 years old. He had lived longer than most humans because he had learned how to survive. He had learned this first on Earth, where he had been a soldier in wars that seemed far away now. Wars about old ideas and old hatreds. He had been young once. He had been strong and fast and quick to anger. He had learned how to use weapons. He had learned how to follow orders. He had learned that soldiers died in war, and that sometimes the death meant something, and sometimes it was just death. That was many years ago. Now Jacob was old. His back hurt when he woke up in the morning. His hands shook when he held things. His eyes were not as sharp as they used to be. But his mind was still working. His mind was still sharp and fast and hard. When humanity left Earth to reach the stars, Jacob had chosen to come too. He was already old then. He was already carrying the weight of all the things he had seen and done. But he came because he wanted to know if humans could build something better on new worlds. He came because he wanted to believe that all the humans who had died on Earth had died for a reason. Now he lived in the settlement on Kepler 442b. He taught the young people about Earth history. He taught them about the wars and the peace. He taught them about the humans who had made choices that changed everything. The young people listened because Jacob knew things that were not in the machines. They used to learn. The meeting room was small and quiet. Jacob sat in a chair that was old and uncomfortable. Lisa sat next to him. Mark was there too, a young man who worked in the engineering section. Christine sat across from Jacob. She was a teacher, and she loved the children. David was the last one to arrive, moving with the tired steps of someone who worked hard every day in the agricultural fields. They were all young. They had all been born on Earth or brought there when they were small. But they had no memory of human cities or human families. They had only known that they were part of something bigger. Moving to new worlds. Jacob played the recording that Lisa had brought. The words of Captain Vorn came out of the machine. The Kelthian captain talked about human weakness. He talked about human stupidity. He talked about how love and loyalty were just chemical reactions in the brain. When the recording finished, the room was very quiet. "Are they correct?" Christine asked. She was afraid. She wanted to believe that humans were strong, but she also wanted to know the truth. Is our love for each other just chemicals? Are the stories we tell about sacrifice just lies we tell ourselves? Jacob did not answer right away. He looked at each of them. Mark was angry. David was confused. Lisa was waiting. Christine was afraid. "I watched my friends die," Jacob said. His voice was not loud, but every word was clear and hard. "I was a soldier on Earth a long time ago. I watched men younger than all of you are right now get killed in wars. I watched people who had done nothing wrong get hurt because of things they did not understand." He paused. He was remembering things that hurt to remember. "I watched a young soldier," Jacob said, "give his water to another soldier who was hurt worse than he was. That soldier died because he did not drink water in a hot place where the heat could kill you. He died because he chose to help someone else instead of saving himself." The Kelthians would say this was stupid. The Kelthians would say he was a fool. Jacob's hands were shaking a little bit, but his voice stayed strong. "But that soldier made a choice," Jacob said. He looked at another person who was suffering more than he was suffering, and he decided that the other person's life was more important than his own life. That decision came from his brain. It came from the chemicals that the Kelthians say control us. But it was not the chemicals making him weak. It was the chemicals making him strong. Mark leaned forward. "How is that strength?" he asked. "He died. The other soldier probably died anyway in that desert. So he just died for nothing. The other soldier lived," Jacob said. "Not for long, but he lived. He had water because another human chose to give him water. And before he died, he was not alone. He was with someone who cared about him." Jacob stood up. His old body moved slowly, but he stood up and walked to the window. The settlement was working outside. Humans were moving around. The sun was bright and hot. "I had a grandmother," Jacob said. He was looking out at the settlement, not at the young people. "She lived a very long time ago, before the wars that I fought in. She told me something that I never forgot. She said that the strongest person in the room is not always the one who can lift the most weight. The strongest person in the room is the one who is willing to break apart for something they believe in." He turned back to face them. "The Kelthians are strong," Jacob said. "They are smart. They are logical. But they have never had to choose between themselves and something bigger. They have never looked at another person and decided the person's life was more important than saving themselves. They have never had to be brave because being brave meant they might die." David spoke for the first time. His voice was quiet. "What do we do?" he asked. "We prepare," Jacob said. "Not for war." The Keltians could destroy us in any war. They have weapons and power that we could never match. We prepare for something different. We show them that their logic is incomplete. We show them that their science has missed something true about human beings. Lisa asked, "How do we show them?" Jacob sat back down. His old eyes looked at each young person in the room. "We show them by living," Jacob said. "We show them by being what we truly are. We show them that when humans face hard times, we do not run away. We show them that when other people are hurt, we help them. We show them that we will sacrifice for each other because that sacrifice means something. It means we are not alone. It means we believe in each other." Christine's face was wet with tears, but she was not afraid anymore. "The Keltians think we are weak because we love each other," she said. "Yes," Jacob said. "And we are going to teach them that they are wrong. We are going to teach them that love is not a weakness. Love is the only true strength in the universe." The meeting ended. The young people left one by one, but the words of Jacob Morrison stayed with them. They stayed because they knew something that the Keltians did not know. They knew that the old man who was teaching them had seen real war. He had seen real suffering, and he still believed that human loyalty and human love were worth more than any weapon or any logic. Jacob sat alone in the meeting room. He thought about the young soldier who had given his water. He thought about all the humans who had chosen to help instead of to save themselves. He thought about his grandmother and her words about true strength. The Keltians were watching from their ships above. They did not know that on the ground below, humans were waking up to something that would change everything. They did not know that an old veteran had decided to teach his people the truth about who they really were. The real story was about to begin. 3 months passed. Jacob Morrison worked quietly with the young people. He did not tell them to do anything special. He did not ask them to prove anything to the Keltians. He simply told them stories about humans who had done hard things. He told them about soldiers who had protected civilians. He told them about ordinary people who had made choices that changed everything around them. The Keltians watched from above. They collected data. They watched how humans worked and lived and spent their time. They were certain that humans were weak. They were certain that the stories humans told about courage and sacrifice were just myths that kept humans from thinking clearly about survival. Then, the Keltians decided to run and experiment. The agricultural sector was the most important part of the human settlement. This is where the food was grown. This is where humans worked in the fields under the hard sun. The crops had been brought from Earth. They were Earth plants that humans needed to eat. Without the crops, humans would need to use stored food from the past, and that food would not last forever. Captain Vorn ordered his scientists to introduce a poison into the agricultural water system. The poison was made to kill plants. It would not hurt humans in small amounts, but if humans stayed in the poisoned area for a long time, they would become very sick. The Keltian captain was curious. He wanted to see if humans would leave the area and let the crops die, or if they would stay and try to save the food. The logic was clear. The smart choice was to leave. The settlement had backup food. Humans could survive. One worker should not risk death for crops, but the Keltians did not understand humans. The alarm came at the wrong time. It came in the middle of the night when humans were sleeping. David was the first to wake. His job was to watch the fields while humans slept. He saw the data on his machine. The poison was spreading. It was killing the plants. He should have called for help first. He should have waited for instructions. The logical thing would have been to leave the area and let the Keltian experts deal with the problem. David did not do the logical thing. He ran into the fields. He ran toward the poison. He started moving the uncontaminated crops to a safe storage area. He worked fast. His hands moved quick. He could feel the poison in the air. He could feel it burning his skin and his eyes. Christine was sleeping in a building nearby. She heard the alarm. She knew what the alarm meant. She knew that the food was in danger. She ran to the fields. She found David moving plants with his hands. "Get out," David said. "This is poisoned. You will get sick." "Then we get sick together," Christine said. And she started helping him move the crops. They worked through the night. They did not have protective gear. They did not have machines to help them. They only had their hands and their determination. The poison burned their skin. It made it hard to breathe. It made their eyes hurt so much they could barely see. David fell down after 6 hours of work. Christine picked him up. She supported him with her body. They kept moving plants. Christine fell down after 8 hours. David picked her up. He carried her on his back while he moved more crops with one arm. The Keltians watched from their ships. They did not understand what they were seeing. The data showed that both humans had been exposed to dangerous levels of poison. The data showed that both humans should have evacuated. The data showed that the optimal outcome was to save the humans and lose some crops, but the humans had not evacuated. And they had saved the crops. More humans came to help. Mark came. He brought water. He helped Christine stand up. Lisa came. She set up barriers to protect the uncontaminated crops. More humans arrived as the night went on. Some had been told to come. Some had just seen what was happening and decided they needed to help. By the time the sun came up, most of the crop had been saved. David and Christine were lying on the ground. Both of them were very sick. Their skin was red and burned. They were not moving. Medical humans came and took them away to the healing center. The Keltians had their answer to their question. But the answer made no sense to them. In the medical center, David and Christine stayed for many days. They recovered slowly. Their skin healed. They began to breathe better. They began to move again. Jacob Morrison visited them every day. He sat by their beds and he talked to them. "You did not have to do that," Jacob said to David. "I did," David said. His voice was weak but sure. "The food belongs to all of us. If the food died, then all of us would suffer later. I could not let that happen." "You might have died," Jacob said. "I know," David said. "But I would rather die knowing I tried to save my people than live knowing I did nothing when they needed help." Christine was awake too. She listened to David's words. She nodded slowly. Jacob sat between the two of them. He looked at both of them with eyes that had seen many things. "You have shown the Keltians something," Jacob said. "You have shown them that humans really are willing to sacrifice for each other. You have shown them that our stories are not myths. You have shown them that when humans see someone they love in danger, we do not calculate. We do not measure. We just act." Captain Vorn watched the data from the healing center. He watched David and Christine get better. He read the reports about what they had done. He called his scientists to the observation room. "Calculate the optimal outcome of that situation," he said. His best scientist looked at the data. The optimal outcome was to remove the humans and replace the crops over time using seed storage, the scientist said. The humans should have calculated that their own survival was more important than the food. But they did not, Captain Vorn said. "No, Captain. They did not." Captain Vorn looked down at the settlement below. He looked at the humans walking around in the morning sun. He looked at David and Christine walking slowly in the healing garden. Both of them still weak, but both of them alive and together. Why? Captain Vorn asked. Why would they choose to risk death for food? The scientist had no answer, but Jacob Morrison knew the answer. He was sitting with David and Christine in the garden. He was watching them heal. He was watching humans care for other humans. The answer was love. The answer was that humans were connected to each other in ways that the Keltians could not measure with their machines. The answer was that humans would die for each other not because it was logical, but because it was right. The Keltians had asked a question. David and Christine had answered it with their actions. Now Captain Vorn and all the Keltians had to deal with an answer that did not fit into their understanding of strength and weakness. The test had worked, but not in the way the Keltians had expected. Captain Vorn requested a meeting with Jacob Morrison. This was unusual. The Keltian captain did not normally meet with individual humans. Humans were below him. Humans were beings to be studied and observed. But Captain Vorn was confused, and he wanted answers. The meeting took place in a neutral room in the settlement's administrative building. It was a simple room with a table and chairs. There were no weapons. There were no guards. It was just two beings from different species meeting face to face. Jacob Morrison came alone. He was old. His body was fragile. Next to the Keltian captain, he looked small and weak. The captain was tall and hard and powerful. By any measure of physical strength, the captain was superior, but Jacob had something that Captain Vorn did not have. Jacob had lived through wars. He had made impossible choices. He had seen humans do things that logic said were impossible. He had learned that strength was more complicated than the Keltians understood. Captain Vorn did not waste time with greetings. "Your species is inefficient," he said immediately. "You sacrifice individual strength for collective bonds. You expend resources on those who cannot contribute. You make decisions based on emotion rather than calculation. This data is accurate?" "Yes," Jacob said simply. "This is accurate." "Then you should have been extinct millennia ago," the captain said. "By every measure of logical survival, you should have failed. Your species should not exist." Jacob smiled slightly. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had seen much suffering and had learned something from that suffering. "But we do exist," he said. "We are still here. We have survived." "How?" Captain Vorn asked. The question was genuine. The captain truly did not understand. Jacob took a breath. He took time to find the right words. When humanity faced the extinction events on Earth, we survived because we protected the young and the weak. When we faced enemies more powerful than ourselves, we survived because we were willing to sacrifice individually for collective survival. When our technology failed, we survived because we had the bonds to hold us together. He paused. He let the words settle. "You are correct," Jacob said. "We are inefficient. We make choices that your logic says are stupid. But your logic is incomplete, Captain. Your logic measures only things that can be calculated. It measures strength and power and resources. But there are things stronger than all of those things. There are things that your science cannot measure." Captain Vorn made a sound that was almost like a growl. "Name them," he said. "Love," Jacob said. "Loyalty. The willingness to break apart for something you believe in. The choice to help another being, even when it costs you everything. These things do not have numbers. These things cannot be calculated, but they are real. And they are more powerful than any weapon." The captain stood up and walked to the window. He looked out at the settlement below. Down there, humans were moving around. Humans were working. Humans were laughing together. Humans were comforting each other. "Explain the children," Captain Vorn said. "The young Keltians developed attachments to your people. This should not happen. Our young are designed to be independent. They are designed to be logical and self-sufficient. But they learned something from humans," Jacob said. He had moved to stand next to the captain. "They learned that being near someone does not make you weaker. They learned that having someone care about you does not slow you down. They learned what it feels like to be loved." "And this is important?" Captain Vorn asked. "It is the most important thing," Jacob said. "Your species has conquered 17 worlds. But you have never had to choose between self-preservation and something greater. You have never experienced the feeling of loving someone so much that their death would break you. You have never stood in front of danger because someone you loved was in danger. Jacob's voice became harder. That is why you have never conquered more than 17 worlds. That is why your expansion has stopped. That is why the Kelthian Empire is stagnant. You have power, but you do not have the thing that makes power meaningful. You do not have the bonds that make beings willing to do impossible things. Captain Vorn was silent. His scaled skin reflected the light from the settlement below. He was processing information that did not fit into his understanding of the universe. David and Christine did not have to risk their lives for crops, the captain said. Their logical calculation should have been survival. Why did they sacrifice? Because they understood something you do not understand, Jacob said. They understood that they are part of something larger than themselves. They understood that their people's survival mattered more than their own comfort. They understood that love is not a chemical error in the brain. Love is the most accurate calculation a being can make. But love can be used against you, Captain Vorn said. If you love someone, that person becomes a vulnerability. If you love someone, they can hurt you. If you love someone, you are weaker. Jacob turned to face the captain directly. His old eyes looked into the captain's hard eyes. Yes, Jacob said. Love makes you vulnerable. Love can hurt you. And this is why love is true strength. Because only a strong being can afford to be vulnerable. Only a strong being can risk everything for another being. Only a strong being can choose to help instead of to survive. The captain turned away from the window. He looked at Jacob for a very long time. The myths, Captain Vorn said. The stories your people tell, they are true. Yes, Jacob said. They are true, but they are not myths. They are documented history. They are records of humans making choices that change the universe. They are records of humans choosing to love and sacrifice and protect. Captain Vorn walked to the window one more time. He looked down at the settlement. He looked at the place where Christine stood in the garden, still looking up at the sky where the transport ship had taken Thess away. If we had this, Captain Vorn said quietly, if the Kelthian Empire had what your species has, if we could choose love and sacrifice the way you do, if we could form bonds that strong, we would be unstoppable. Yes, Jacob said. You would be. But there is a cost to this power. The cost is pain. The cost is loss. The cost is the ability to be hurt. The Kelthian Empire has chosen to avoid this cost. You have chosen to stay safe. But in staying safe, you have given up the greatest power in the universe. Captain Vorn stood very still. His mind was working. He was processing this information. He was reconsidering everything he had understood about strength and weakness. Can we learn this? The captain asked. Can the Kelthian Empire learn to love and sacrifice the way humans do? Jacob did not answer right away. He thought about the young Kelthians who had cried when leaving the settlement. He thought about Thess holding Christine's hand. He thought about the possibility of a species learning what it meant to be vulnerable. Perhaps, Jacob said, but it will require you to change. It will require you to admit that your logic is incomplete. It will require you to accept that there are things more important than calculating efficiency. This will be difficult, Captain Vorn said. Yes, Jacob agreed. It will be very difficult. It will be the hardest thing your species has ever done. But if you succeed, you will understand why humans have survived. You will understand why humans will continue to survive. You will understand that true strength does not come from power. True strength comes from the willingness to break apart for something you love. Captain Vorn looked out at the settlement one last time. He saw a human woman who had sacrificed sleep and food for an alien child. He saw humans who would risk their lives for crops that would feed their community. He saw humans caring for each other in ways that made no logical sense. And for the first time in his life, Captain Vorn understood what it meant to be humbled by truth. "The observation is complete," he said. "The test is finished. We have learned what we came to learn." "And what have you learned?" Jacob asked. "We have learned," Captain Vorn said slowly, "that strength is not what we thought it was. We have learned that the greatest power in the universe comes not from logic, but from love. And we have learned that our species has been poor and weak all this time, even though we thought we were rich and strong." Jacob Morrison nodded. "Now you are beginning to understand what it means to be human," he said. The meeting was over. Jacob Morrison walked back to the settlement. He did not look behind him. He knew what the captain had learned. He knew that the Kelthians would have to make a choice. They would have to decide if they wanted to continue on the path they had always walked, or if they were willing to try something new. From the observation deck of the command station, Captain Vorn watched the old human walk away. He thought about the young Kelthians crying as they left. He thought about what it meant to love someone so much that their pain became your pain. The Kelthian Empire would never be the same. The captain would carry these truths back to his people. And the Kelthians would have to decide if they were brave enough to learn what humans had known all along. That true strength came not from power, but from the willingness to care about something more than yourself. Captain Vorn was confused. This did not happen to Kelthian captains. They were trained to understand everything. They were trained to see the logic in every situation. But David and Christine had done something that made no sense. They had sacrificed their own safety for other humans. This should not be possible in a logical universe. So Captain Vorn created a new test. This test would be more difficult. This test would measure something deeper. The Kelthian captain sent a message to the human settlement. The message said that the Kelthian Empire wanted to study cross-species development. The Kelthians wanted to bring young Kelthians to live in the human settlement for a time. The humans would take care of the Kelthian children. The Kelthians would learn about human behavior by watching how humans treated alien children. The human leadership met to discuss this. They knew this was another test. Jacob Morrison had told them that the Kelthians would test them again and again until they understood the truth. But the humans did not resist. They agreed to care for the Kelthian children. The children arrived on a transport ship. There were 12 young Kelthians. They were much smaller than adult Kelthians, but still large compared to human children. Their skin was not as hard as adult skin. They needed special food. They needed temperature control. They needed care that the humans did not have to give. Resources were limited in the settlement. Every human knew this. Every human understood that taking resources away from other humans meant that some humans would have less food, less comfort, less safety. Christine was the first to volunteer to help. She had just recovered from the poison exposure. Her skin was still marked with red lines where the burns had been. She was still weak, but she came to Jacob and said that she wanted to care for the Kelthian children. Why? Jacob asked her. He was testing her. He wanted to know if she understood the real reason. Because they are children, Christine said, and children need care. And I can provide that care. Jacob nodded. He knew she was right, that other humans came forward. Mark came to help build safe spaces for the Kelthian children. Lisa came to help prepare their food. David came to help manage the resources. Even humans who barely had enough for themselves came to help the young aliens. One of the Kelthian children was named Tess. She was smaller than the others. She was weak. Her body did not work as well as the other young Kelthians. Among Kelthians, this would mean that Tess was not important. A weak child was a child who would not become a strong adult, but the humans did not see it. This way, Christine chose to be Thess's primary caregiver. She spent hours with the small Kelthian. She learned what Thess needed. She learned that Thess was scared of loud sounds. She learned that Thess responded well to a soft touch. She learned that Thess liked to be near other living things. Christine spent her limited free time with Thess. She sat with the young alien. She talked to her in a calm voice. She showed her the human settlement. She showed her the water and the plants and the sky. The other Kelthians did not understand this. Adult Kelthians came to observe, and they watched Christine with confusion. "Why do you spend so much time on this small one?" a Kelthian scientist asked. "She will not contribute much to the Kelthian Empire. Your resources would be better spent on the stronger children." Christine did not answer the question. She simply held Thess's small claw in her hand and continued to be present with the child. Weeks passed. The Kelthian children began to adapt to the human settlement. They began to understand human ways. They began to eat human food. They began to participate in human activities, and they began to form bonds with their human caregivers. Mark noticed that one of the young Kelthians, called Viren, was spending less time with the other Kelthians and more time with him. Viren wanted to help with building projects. Viren wanted to be near Mark. Lisa noticed that another Kelthian child named Krell would wait by the agricultural storage area just to see her pass by. The Kelthian scientists, watching from the ships, were confused by this behavior. The young Kelthians are developing attachments, one scientist reported to Captain Vorn. "This is not normal. This is not logical. Explain," the captain said. "The young Kelthians are spending time with specific humans instead of optimizing their own development. They are choosing relationship over resource gathering. They are choosing to be near certain humans, even when other humans could provide the same services." Captain Vorn said nothing for a long time. Then Thess became sick. It was a small infection in her respiratory system. Normally, young Kelthians recovered from infections quickly. Their bodies were designed to be tough. But Thess was weak. Her body did not fight the infection as well as other young Kelthians. Christine sat by Thess's medical bed day and night. She did not sleep. She did not eat much. She only stayed with the SS. The human medical people gave Thess medications. They checked her regularly. But Christine was the one who was present. Christine was the one who held Thess's claw. Christine was the one who talked to her in a calm voice and told her that she would be okay. Captain Vorn's scientists watched this behavior with shock. The human is expending energy that she needs for her own survival, a scientist said. She is sacrificing sleep and food for a young alien. This is inefficient. This is damaging to her own health. But Thess recovered. The infection faded. The young Kelthian's eyes opened. She looked at Christine. Thess made a sound. It was a sound that young Kelthians made. In the Kelthian language, it meant gratitude. It meant affection. Jacob Morrison, who was watching from across the room, understood the sound. He understood what it meant. The time came when the Kelthian children had to return to their ships. The observation period was over. The Empire wanted to take the young ones back to begin their regular training. The Kelthian children did not want to leave. Viarn cried. He made sounds of distress when the transport ship came to collect him. He tried to stay with Mark. He did not want to go. Krell fought the adult Kelthians. She tried to run back to the settlement. She wanted to find Lisa. Thess refused to move. She would not board the transport. She held on to Christine with her small claws. The Kelthian scientists forced the children onto the ship. But everyone in the settlement and everyone watching from the Kelthian command station saw what happened. They saw young Kelthians crying. because they did not want to leave the humans they had bonded with. Captain Vorn stood in silence for a very long time. "This should not be possible," he said finally. "Young Kelthians are designed to be independent. They are not designed to form attachments. They are not designed to develop emotional bonds that override logical thinking." "But it has happened, sir," a scientist said. "Yes," Captain Vorn said. "It has happened. I do not know why. But Jacob Morrison knew. He had seen it happen. He had watched Christine sacrifice her sleep and her food for a young alien. He had watched humans choose to care for creatures that could never repay them. He had watched humans form bonds that made no logical sense but were absolutely real. The answer was love. The answer was that love did not care about species. The answer was that love did not care about logic. The answer was that love was the most powerful force in any universe. The Kelthians had sent children to test if humans would care for aliens. The Kelthians had expected humans to see the children as resources to be evaluated. Instead, humans had seen children who needed protection. Humans had seen young creatures who were scared and alone. And humans had chosen to care for them. In the settlement below, Christine stood in the garden and looked up at the ship that was taking Thess away. She did not know if she would ever see the young Kelthian again, but she knew that for a short time she had made a difference. She had shown Thess what love was. Captain Vorm watched the scene. He watched a human woman reach toward the sky. She was crying. She was reaching for an alien child. The captain was beginning to understand something that no Kelthian had ever understood before. He was beginning to understand that the myths the humans told were not myths at all. They were truths about something very real and very powerful.